Welcome back to part 14, the final part of RadicalSoda's Scarlet and Violet review. Thanks so much for sticking with it. I'm never doing this again. Let's get on it, let's do it, let's get this over with. While on the way to the time machine, RadicalSoda answers a few of our questions. Kind of. Asking about the time machine doesn't really answer my main question about its origin, although I did learn it is just sort of spitting these ancient Pokemon out automatically. The way RadicalSoda works is also answered. It draws on recorded memories and knowledge from the original, and although people at this time would have had no way to make a robot like RadicalSoda, apparently it was a hardware issue? The gems in Area Zero were powerful enough to make her a reality. RadicalSoda then explains that introducing these ancient Pokemon into the world now would wreak havoc on the ecological systems in place, pretty much exactly like what happens in real life. Shout out to early New Zealand settlers. I love having no native birds left. Some Pokemon have managed to break through the Area Zero barrier, like Great Tusk and Koraidon. I don't see how Koraidon could destroy an ecological system though, maybe tear through a couple of sandwich shops. RadicalSoda doesn't want this to happen, even though it would crush the dream of the original professor. Good thing she's dead then. Now this is a room! 1 of 6 in the whole game. RadicalSoda says in order to turn off the machine, we'll need to use the Scarlet book, so good thing I told you all that Arvin gave it to me. After all, him being here right now wouldn't make the game more interesting or anything. It's not like the story is related to him in any way. She does mention, however, that if we try to turn it off, she's gonna shank us faster than the real Soda left Arvin as a baby to fend for himself. No, she's coded in a certain way to try and stop anybody from destroying the original Soda's hopes and dreams. Upon inserting the Scarlet book into the machine, it seems to start a shutdown, but suddenly, it's not the room expands, reaching up into the portal to the ancient past, and AI Soda gets taken over by the original's memories, ready to catch the Master Ball that comes through, and begins the final battle. You're really gonna be all the way up there? Imagine trying to command your Pokemon.
Weedle, use tackle! Use tackle! Use tackle! Oh, son of a bitch.
Soda lets the Pokeball drop. Golly, that's even higher than I thought. And her first Pokemon, Slitherwing, pops out! But before I can talk any further about Slitherwing, can I mention Soda's battle theme? Dog, this slaps harder than Koraidon. This theme, alongside the actually sort of interesting visual spectacle we've got going on with the room and its layout and the little interruptions from RadicalSoda herself glitching and twisting, this is actually good? Why it took them this long to do anything this interesting is a total mystery, but hey, they got there eventually. The end of the game counts, right? Anyway, Slitherwing, ancient counterpart to Volcarona. Despite it looking very much so like the first ever bug dragon type, it's actually bug fighting, which, yes, is disappointing, but the design is cool, no issues there. It's a big old dino bug, who doesn't love that? Soda's Slitherwing, and by proxy all of her Pokemon, were just slightly lower leveled than my own, meaning this was probably as fair of a fight as I was gonna get. I swapped out Bear Grylls. I was not gonna risk a bug move on a grass dark type Pokemon, into Scott, who took a fair amount of damage from a non-effective move. I wasn't sure what typing Slitherwing was, so I opted to paralyze it first. A Dual Wing Beat for the record would have rocked its world. But no, I played it safe, went with Electro Ball. Okay, forget playing it safe. What the heck was I doing here? What typing did I think this thing was to press Electro Ball into a perceived bug-type Pokemon when a flying move was right there? I get Dual Wing Beat isn't the best to move on Kilowattrel, but at least give it a try, right? Maybe that's what the Paralyze was for originally, to make it slower and give Electro Ball more oomph. Fluttermane's up next, and I guess I thought another Thunder Wave Electro Ball would do it, but Fluttermane is fast! Look at those stats! Paradox Pokemon are built different, man. It takes Scott down with a Shadow Ball, and Bear Grylls comes in. Again, didn't really know its typing, could only guess Ghost something, so I figured a good old Dark-type move would at least do a fair amount of damage, or I could hit it with Flower Trick, stick with what works, I guess. Or in this case, what is busted? Scream Tail! I know this one. I didn't really have anything super effective. No poison, ghost, or steel moves to be seen on this team. But Scream Tail isn't exactly a powerful attacking Pokemon, just a bulky one, so Code Radical comes in and gets crit immediately. Okay. Due to this, Code Radical can't get it going long enough to set up properly, so Scream Tail gets the jump on him, knocking him out. Thankfully, the special defense drop from Lumina Crash makes it easy for Microsoft Sam to come in and finish the job. Why is the ancient Jigglypuff so fast? 100 111 speed! In comes another new Pokemon, Sandy Shocks. This thing is funky. I like it. And not really much else to it. I mean, it walks with its stretchy magnets and has iron filings all over its body resembling punk hair. It's neat. Enough said, really. I figured it'd be a steel type. It's not. But either way, it wouldn't have mattered as it knocks out Microsoft Sam with a power gem, also outspeeding him. 101 speed. That's faster than Gyarados. Faster than Sharpedo. And Rayquaza. Sada's actually kicking my butt here. Now this is an interesting fight. The AI isn't really all that special in Pokemon Scarlet, but throwing strong Pokemon at me I'm completely unfamiliar with is a great idea for a tough fight. Leads to a lot of surprising moments. Bear Grylls comes back in because I figured the Rock-type move must also mean Sandy Shocks was Rock-type. It isn't, but good enough because ground is also weak to grass, meaning Flower Trick does the job perfectly. Because when does it not? Sada face palms so hard her fingers go through her forehead, and we're on to the next Pokemon, Brute Bonnet, another bulky Pokemon. Acrobatics does a little bit over a half, and its own Sucker Punch can't do much to another Dark type, so this matchup ends pretty quickly. Sada's last Pokemon is Roaring Moon, an ancient Salamence. It has a held item, holy shit, a world first for modern Pokemon, which allows its ability to activate, heightening its attack stat. This is gonna be a tough one. Turns out it was Dragon Dark type. Roaring Moon probably would have been a very scary threat if Bear Grylls didn't totally outspeed it. It's got a base 139 attack and 119 speed. There aren't that many Pokemon in the Paldean Dex that outspeed it, actually. Dugtrio, Wugtrio, Cyclizar, Noivern, Weavile. See, even the ones that do generally aren't all that strong. It just so happened that I had the perfect Pokemon to counter it. Glad I slapped Play Rough onto Bear Grylls when I did, although maybe Screamy Dog could have also taken it down too, so long as it could have taken a hit, which I don't think so. Oh, and before I forget, Roaring Moon? Looks pretty cool. Cooler than Salamence, even, to be honest. I love the body shape here with the big clawed arms and the small back legs. Just a neat little design. And that's that. Sada goes down and short circuits by the look of things. The tower falls and the time machine finally deactivates fully. Arven, Nemona, and the Thing have finally dealt with the Pokemon outside, and look at Arven, he doesn't even think twice. He knows that isn't his mom. She would have left already. But Robo-Sada still seems to be holding on to Sada's memories, so she has a little moment with Arven. Too little, too late, bitch. Past Sada isn't done just yet, automatically activating the Paradise Protection Protocol, which locks all Pokeballs without Sada's personal ID and deactivates Robo-Sada, who gets taken over by the protection program starting up. They do a really neat little intro swap glitch thing here. Man, where was all this effort for the rest of the game? And we are challenged by the PPP. The PPP sends out Angry Koraidon and I send out Bear Grylls! Forgot about that. The game does something really interesting here. It still lets me use the menu. I can't fight Koraidon with my bare hands, standing well for the last person who tried that. Sorry, Arven. I tried using a Pokédoll. Clavell put a stop to that. Running away won't work because it put everyone else in danger, which means there's got to be some option I haven't thought of. Something I haven't quite... Okay, that's pretty cool. It's a total triumph! Koraidon pushes past his inner self-doubt and says, "Hello! I'm gonna kick your ass!" His cool new move, Collision Course, has a neat new animation, and oh my goodness, this man's not going down without a fight. PPP's Koraidon uses Giga Impact and slams right through our boy, but he toughs it out so he wouldn't feel sad. The only time this line is absolutely 100% acceptable. Look at him go! Arven yells at us to terrestrialize, with a little bit of his Robo-Mum spirit living on inside of him. And that's exactly what we do, hitting PPP Koraidon right in the kisser with a Dragon-type Terra Blast, ending the fight. Oh, he's still... one more then. And with that, the PPP is defeated. Everybody except Nemona and Mr. Soderbergh do a happy fun time dance, and it seems that Robo-Sada is back to normal. Unfortunately, it seems with her in the picture, the time machine can never really be turned off, and so Robo-Sada wishes to go through the time machine and into the past to live out the real Sada's dream, which was apparently that. She leaves, and her washboard abs never to be seen again. Well, maybe by some sort of ancient Mr. Mime. And now that Arven's got enough trauma for 10 separate people, it's finally time to head home. Right after 40-odd seconds of black screen goodness. The last cutscene shows everyone slowly meandering back to the academy when Nimona suggests they take the long way home, turning this roaming gaggle of gloomy teens into an adventure all on its own. Arvin doesn't want to, can't really blame the guy, but is coerced into it by everybody else. How sweet. Kids doing what they can to help with crippling depression. Making a distraction.
You see
Oh my god, it's been so long since I've heard somebody else's voice. The hell is this? It's Sharon! So that's where the budget went. Oh, look at this. Honestly, the last part of the game, the Area Zero stuff, not bad. It still suffered from the majority of the problems the other areas of the game have, but the story was more interesting, the environment was different, the battle was cool, the little bit with Koridon at the end was satisfying. I liked it a lot. But I just wish that sort of creativity and effort could be seen elsewhere in the game. It's like 1 hour out of 20. I want a Pokemon game that surprises me, not one that I feel was rushed out to meet a deadline. Of course, this isn't the end of the story. No, not quite yet. I still have to suffer through the rest of the post-game, what little there is. Director Clavel's got a little prize for us for helping save the ecosystem. That's neat, at least. I mean, I was kind of sick of the whole save the world shtick anyway. And Arvin seems to be doing okay, although he doesn't have nearly enough credits to graduate the academy, so he's going to be pulling some all-nighters, much like me writing this abomination of a script. Clavel wants to celebrate our champion rank and also, the Area Zero stuff. And Nimona suggests a Pokemon battle contest. Wow, Pokemon battles, that's crazy. Geeta thinks this is a great idea because this is a cartoon sitcom where people just pop in at any time now. And she also thinks the teachers should be included in the competition. She herself also wants to participate, but because of her full schedule running the school board as well as the league, she wouldn't have the time to participate. Unless... That's right, folks, it's time for some unpaid child labor. We gotta beat each and every gym leader again in Geeta's place, making sure they're strong enough to keep their job. Better start bigger now, Grusher. I think Katie's a good place to start our little test, so let's head over to the... Well, that's a new one. I mean, I did say I wanted the game to surprise me. Katie's ready for the rematch, and to speed things up, I'll go through her team real fast. She's got a Lockex to start. My Pokemon got Eternal Dark. It seems to be a glitch carried on from when I couldn't use him in the Koridon fight. It would have been funny if I could have actually picked him here. She's also got a Forretress, a Spidops, a Heracross, and of course her Ursaring, which she terrestrializes. Unfortunately for Ursaring, its only bug-type move here is Fury Cutter, which I don't have to tell you ain't particularly great. Honestly, her whole team gets destroyed by a fast fire type, flying too, apart from Forretress. At least it has Stone Edge to deal with them. And rock types, they might have a bit of trouble with Heracross. I mean, you're rehired, Katie, I guess, mostly because the first gym's not supposed to be super difficult anyway, and I like your face. Next up, I wanted to go see Tulip, no reason I swear, and she leads with Farigarath. She also has a Gardevoir, a Spathra, and a terrestrialized Floor just like last time, but she has a new member, her Gallade, which is a good fit, I think. Means her team has a decent shot at dark types overall, although bugs will have an easier time, unless it's Lockex. Learned my lesson with that one. Tulip's doing just fine. She's rehired. Well, 2 gyms down and Mr. Soderbergh still can't figure out how to ride Koridon properly, but next up is Kofu. Veluza's up first, still doesn't have its signature move, but Kofu's also brought back as Wugtrio and Crabominable while adding in Pelipper. Good pick, as I suggested a while ago, helps resist grass moves. And he's also got a Clawitzer, I suppose to continue the seafood theme, although again, that means 4 out of his 5 Pokemon are still weak to grass, and all of them are weak to electric moves. Even Pelipper, who technically is neutral to grass moves, can't take a hit to save its life. That's why I suggested it for the original team. If you want a strong water flying type at this point, Gyarados is your best bet, although I know, the seafood theme anyhow. Kofu, you're fired. You better hope you didn't lose that wallet again, because you're gonna need to hold on to every last penny. I think I'm just gonna have to accept that this is my life now. Larry's up next. He remarks that he likes the normal type because they're like him, normal, average, but I disagree. Normal type Pokemon are great. They're my favorite type. So many interesting normal type Pokemon. They don't get enough love. Anyway, Larry's got an Oinkologne he sends out first. That's points off Larry, sorry. He's got his old team of Kamala, the Dunsparce, and Terrastaraptor, and his new Pokemon are well, Oinkologne, and Braviary, another flying type to help deal with fighting type Pokemon, and it's also a little nod towards his Elite Four team. Each one of Larry's Pokemon, aside from the Dunsparce, has a way to hit fighting type Pokemon, so despite the weird pick with the Oinkologne, it's still a vastly superior team compared to Kofu's. Larry, you're rehired. I guess I shouldn't really say rehired. You're still hired. I think he's really happy, guys. Grush is next on the list. He leads with Frostmoth again. He's got a grand total of 1 new Pokemon, that being Weavile. I mean, a solid pick, as I suggested before, but Beartick and Frostmoth go down immediately like last time. Lady, can you move, please? And whilst the Titan sort of pulled a fast one with Bounce, I mean, it's Bounce, you can literally see it coming. Altaria managed to live a flamethrower and knock out Microsoft Sam, but you know the drill, it's Altaria. It's hard to make a proper Ice-type team for AI due to the sheer limitations of the type. Really weak defensively, not that many Ice types to begin with, and then you've got the limited Paldean Dex. But that being said, there are Pokemon that could help here. I mean, I get why he doesn't have a Baxcalibur on his normal team, but I think giving him one for this fight would have been a good choice. Just something to combat any one of Ice-type's many weaknesses. I would give another example, but there's really nothing in the base Paldean Dex which also sort of at least suits his theme. I mean, I'm not giving this man a cloister. I'm gonna fire Grusher, but man, I feel sorry for him. He's doing his best with what he's got, but for crying out loud, go catch a Baxcalibur. We need to tear down the Ice-type gym and put a Rock one in instead. A Rock-type final gym. That could be interesting. Haven't seen a Rock gym for anything but the early ones, other than Gordy and Sword, but I had Melanie, so it doesn't count. Rhyme, unfortunately, is next on the list because she happened to be nearby. Another double battle, which is neat, I guess. Same team as before. Bannet, Mimikyu, Houndstone, Terratoxtricity, the only newcomer being Spiritomb, which is a good counter for other ghost types and ghost type moves. Also helps with dark types, although Mimikyu is here too for that. I hate to say it, but Rhyme is fine. I'd probably swap out Bannet for, I don't know, Gengar maybe. Already got plenty of physical attackers on this particular team, but for bringing the double battle mechanic alongside having the right resistances, meaning trainers can't snowball the crap out of you, unlike her first battle, she's still hired. Iono's got her same old team, Kilowattrel, Ballybolt, Luxray, and Terra Mismagius with newcomer Electrode. Where the heck is the Magnemite line? It's in your damn branding! 2 of her Pokemon are immune to Electric's only weakness, Ground, and Luxray has Intimidate to lower the mostly physical ground-type moves sent its way. Bellabolt is Bellabolt, but Electrode? I don't know about this guy, man. Sucker Punch, Discharge, Magnet Rise, and Electric Terrain. I suppose you could Magnet Rise immediately to avoid ground moves thanks to Electrode's high speed, then Electric Terrain to boost the fully electric team. I guess that works, just Electrode doesn't exactly do a lot of damage, and to be honest, probably won't even live a regular non-effective attack anyway. But aside from that, Iono's fine, still hired, no real issues there. Then we've got Brassius. If you remember, I had multiple issues with his team. Now with Lilligant, Breloom, Serena, Arboliver, can't forget Terra Sudowoodo, of course. We'll get to Arboliver in a sec, but every single one of these Pokemon are weak to fire. They're weak to ice, they're weak to flying, they're weak to poison. This team's a nightmare. They've got some decent coverage with their moves, but that won't help when I have an Acrobatics Meowscarada blasting through with the only attack managing to hit, it being Mach Punch, which, while I admit did a decent amount, not being able to knock out Bear Grylls means he's not knocked out, so nothing changes. And when Sudowoodo finally came out, he used Trailblaze to speed up rather than using Fire Punch or Ice Punch. Both moves it knows! I'm sorry, Brassius, but you're fired. Go get a Ferrothorn that doesn't exist and then come talk to me. Anyway, Arboliver, I never got to see this Pokemon during the main game or its pre-evolution, which is odd because you think they'd want to show it off a little. Let's start with the appropriately named Dolive, who is very cute, no issues here, kind of like an Olive Rosalia. Arboliver, however, is not what I expected. Turned out more planty than I thought it would. Figured it'd get more humanoid. But for what it is, it's very unique, and I do like that. It's got a new ability called Seed Sower, which sets up grassy terrain if it's hit. Arboliver is super slow, though, so that makes it a little bit hard to use. Neat, though. Like, am I going crazy, or is it getting worse? Next up is... Oh, that was it. Went by quicker than expected. Gita and Mr. Soderbergh head back to the dorm room to discuss how the gym leader battles went. I wonder, is this room what helped nurture your potential as a champion? Girl, I think I've been in here like 3 times total, including this one. Tell me, which gym leader did you feel was easiest to face in battle? Kofu. Strongest impression? Tulip, no reason. As for the most trouble, gotta say, Rhyme took the longest. And double battles, my team ain't built for those. That's all for that. I don't know if my answers actually change anything in the game. I heavily doubt it. And a few days later, shown in a text box, of course, not real days that you have to wait, the tournament is upon us! It's a replayable tourney with a lot of different characters. You can face your rivals, your teachers, Gita, Clavel. That's it. I think the tourney's first competitors are the same for everybody their first time around, meaning Arvin gets the short end of the stick no matter what, having to battle us right away. Poor guy can't catch a break. And his team is largely unchanged, a few extra levels here and there, but despite that, there's still something new to see here, or here. They knocked the music out of the park. Another Toby Fox theme, I think. This one's bright and cheerful, but has that energy that's needed in a battle theme. It's great. Next up is Mr. Jock, and he's got a totally new team because we've never seen it. I couldn't figure out his theme just by looking at his Pokemon. I don't think anyone can, actually. I don't think he really has a theme. Arcanine, Lorantis, Swalot, Mudsdale, Slowbro, Farigiraf. The only thing I can really say is that they're all second stage evolutions, but that's a pretty weak link. They're all pretty slow and laid back, apart from Arcanine. But that could just be like a loyal dog or something. Jack's pretty laid back, so that could be it. Next up is Miss Dendra, and her team consists of Phalanx, 2 Tauros forms, Fire and Water, no regular, Medicham, Howlucha, and Hariyama. Honestly, I expected a few more humanoid Pokemon with traditional workout or athletic themes like Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee, but this works fine, and I don't think the Tyrogue line was actually in the game yet, so... It's time for the final battle, and look who made it to the finals. Who would have guessed that the champion of the region would make it this far in a school brawl? Unfortunately, Gita doesn't change her strategy at all, so I think that... Oh, we won, look at that. And for my efforts, Nimona gifts me a cool new hat that I can't wear because of my hair. I feel only despair. And that's kind of it for Scarlet and Violet, at least the main story. Don't worry, there's still plenty to go. I'm gonna cry. You can redo the Ace tournament to see the other teachers' teams or to grind money with an automatic button presser if you have the right Pokemon. I didn't do either of these things, although I wish I had because Miss Miriam makes an appearance and she's got a whole team based around different styles of medicine. Hypnotherapy, acupuncture, natural medicine, leeches, like in the old days. I guess Gleely's a cold compress or something. Maybe that thing where you go into an icy bath. You know the one. And her Ace, Toxapex, which is about as well positioned as Gita's Glamora, is all about needles, but in Miriam's case, I don't really mind it being last because needles are the last thing a kid wants to see, and for the love of God, Miriam's not the region champion. Get it together, Gita! Mr. Jack also lets us know that we've unlocked 5-star raids, which if you're doing with a group of NPCs, they now have actual evolved Pokemon, which is... well, acceptable. They are challenging, but probably for the wrong reason. These aren't really meant to be played solo. Online is really the only option for these, especially with the 6-star raids that popped up later on in the game's lifespan, which were even harder. Screw people who don't pay for online, I guess. Funnily enough, no raids appear at any point in Area 0, which, I mean, it's the Terra Crystal place. Seems weird, right? Well, turns out Game Freak was in such a rush to get the game out, they didn't have the time to program them in properly. At least that's the story. I gotta throw the word allegedly in here somewhere, right? I don't have much to say about these raids other than... they exist. I really didn't care too much about them other than when I was grinding money and items for the team I made to be a rival for my friend's playthrough. Speaking of, this would be a good time to talk about multiplayer in general. I have no idea if I have any actual footage of multiplayer, but I'm sure I can scavenge something up. So, from day one, people were uploading images, GIFs, videos of how busted the online was in Scarlet and Violet. Trainers glitching out, breaking their arms, necks, shifting into their Titan forms. I didn't run into too many of these glitches. Occasionally my arm would break doing the emotes, but nothing substantial like the big freaky giant over there. The main ones I saw were trainers and Pokemon popping into other people's cutscenes and battles. The game's meant to remove these players when battles and cutscenes are playing, and usually it works, just not all the time. Sometimes you can walk around in others' battles, get in the way, and other times you'll only see shadows. Sometimes in cutscenes, if you keep throwing your Pokemon in and out of its ball, it'll start popping up for, in said cutscene player. It's the Wild West out in multiplayer Pokemon land. Even times I was appearing in my friend's Team Star flashback sequences. I don't think I have any footage of that, though, I'm sorry. But what of the functions in multiplayer? What is there to do exactly? Well, aside from aesthetic things like taking photos or ruining cutscenes, you can join another player's raid battles and make sandwiches. That is it. You can't battle, you can't trade, you can't give each other items or money. No, for that sort of stuff, you still need to head over to a Pokemon Center and use the menu there. It's ridiculous and so clunky. I figured from the trailers we'd just be able to interact with each other and start a battle or, trade whenever, wherever. Instead, it's like I'm just seeing a ghost of my friend. They're not really there, they just look like they're there. It's a huge disappointment because for most of my friends, and me included, the online stuff was the big seller. Like in Pokemon fan games and mods, you can do that sort of stuff I was talking about before. Trading, battling, etc. What's Game Freak's excuse? Oh right, not enough time. Well, I've got a very easy solution. How about you fire whoever's directing these games and get somebody else who cares? Of course, that'd never happen. Money is the #1 product here, not Pokemon. I did, however, utilize the online features to help finish up my Pokédex. When you enter a player's world that isn't your own, a Scarlet player going into a Violet player's game, you can actually catch the version-exclusive Pokemon, assuming the player that owns that version is nearby, forcing the Pokemon to spawn. This means I can finish up my Pokemon evaluation segment with all the version-exclusive Paradox Pokemon aside a few Pokemon that we didn't actually get to see throughout the story, so I'll mention them right here. But before I can do that, I have to mention that in order to catch the Paradox Pokemon, you have to go to Area 0. And you know how you can explore the overworld with your friends, la-di-da, no issue. Well, not in Area 0! For some reason, I'm assuming they didn't want players interrupting your Area 0 story experience, but then just add a funking trigger when you beat the game to allow multiplayer there! Anyway, Game Freak is Game Freak, meaning that even though you can't see your friends in Area 0, technically, they're still there, meaning you could run into unbattleable Pokemon that they happen to be battling, and Paradox Pokemon that you can't usually get, assuming that the other player is around. Just gotta communicate where exactly you are at all times, because Game Freak is incompetent! You get the point. So, who are we missing? Well, to start off, I'll finish up the earlier Pokemon that we didn't see, starting with Mousehold, which is just Tandemaus with a baby or two. What's neat about this Pokemon is that usually it'll evolve without the whole song and dance evolution animation, meaning that just suddenly 2 mice will become 4. I think that's pretty funny, so Tandemaus gets a big thumbs up from me. Somebody over at Game Freak loved this thing so much they gave it 2 signature moves, by the way, or maybe just 1. I think Cincino also gets Tidy Up, which is normal type Dragon Dance, and also it's got Population Bomb, which hits 0 to 10 times, only stopping when you miss. It has an accuracy of 90%, so just slap a wide lens on this bad boy and you'll start dealing 200 base damage before you know it. Next up is Rabsca, the evolution of Ralor. Rabsca is just Scarab with the end of the word moved to the front. Great name there. And it's a bug psychic type now. I have very little thoughts on Rabsca. It's the only other Pokemon that lends Revival Blessing, but I like the ball, I guess. Sorry, not much to say here. Palafin is quite the unassuming evolution of Finizen, evolved only when you're playing with other people online. It doesn't look any different aside from the heart on its chest, but when you switch him out and then back in, holy crap! This may be the ugliest Pokemon I've ever seen. People out here pointing at Bruxish. Hell no, dog. Palafin's got those stanky-ass rubber gloves and milky eyes more suited to a dead fish rather than a hero dolphin. Let me burn to death in the building. Don't let this thing touch me! Armarouge is the other evolution of Charcadet, this one for Scarlet. I don't know about those pauldrons, man. They look about as plastic as the groin shot version. I think I prefer his edgier brother. Not that there's anything wrong with Armarouge, he's fine. He's doing well for himself. I just think he needs better textures. Finally, for the last of the regular overworld Pokemon, we have Goldengo, who many either love or hate. I have grown numb. I spent the time getting the Gimmighoul coins, and it wasn't really worth it. I mean, it's a neat idea for an evolution gimmick, but I just don't really like it all that much. It doesn't help that it got special treatment with an ability that stops all status moves, literally all of them, what the heck? And it's got a signature move, Make It Rain, and it's like a steel-type Leaf Storm or Draco Meteor. But get this, instead of reducing the Pokemon's special attack by 2 stages after the move's used, Goldengo only has to lose 1. And then, it also works like Payday, where you pick up the coins after the battle. I hate this guy. He's got everything in life and I don't. All right, before I have a midlife crisis over a Pokemon made of string cheese, let's move on to the Violet Paradox Pokemon. And as you've probably already guessed or known for the past, I don't know how long, these Pokemon are from the future as opposed to the past. So how do these Pokemon evolve even further than how we know them today? What new interesting traits will our familiar buddies have? They're all robots. They're all funkin' robots. Iron Treads as Robot Donphan, whoopee. And Iron Bundle as a Robot Delibird, wahoo. Iron Hands as Robot Hariyama, yippee. Iron Jugulars, are you noticing a theme with the names yet? As a Robot Hydreigon. Iron Moth as a Robot Volcarona. Iron Thorns as a Robot Tyranitar. And Iron Valiant as Robot Gardevoir / Gallade. What a letdown, man. Same names, same themes. An elephant in 100,000 years isn't gonna just suddenly become a robot. What happened here? This is just uncreative, which is weird because usually Game Freak's pretty good about their designs. The past Paradox Pokemon were neat. These just suck. Some of them have neat features, like Iron Treads being able to roll up with its trunk thing, or how Iron Valiant is a mix between Gardevoir and Gallade, but yikes. I'm glad I picked Scarlet. Now, there are more Paradox Pokemon on the list, but they're a part of the DLC, and before I can start talking about the DLC, or even if I do at some point, I gotta mention the Nuzlocke I did. But before I can mention the Nuzlocke I did, I gotta mention the game's updates, or update. I think I only played the game on one particular patch, the release patch, which I'm sick of, by the way. Put the whole game on the goddamn cartridge or disc, I don't care, I hate it! Stop making me have to update a game when I come home with a disc. You used to buy a console instead of a PC for the ease of use, and nowadays you might as well just have the damn PC! Anyway, from what I could tell, the update to the initial experience on day one changed very few things, which is good for the most part. Unfortunately, it didn't fix the janky cutscenes, like, for example, the Bombardier one that really needed it. No, apparently those cutscenes are well and truly finished. Top dollar went into making those. The lag and memory leakage, as I've already explained, didn't get fixed. In fact, at some point it actually got worse, as I mentioned before. But what did get changed, that I noticed in particular, and I played a good long amount after updating to finish up on the decks and do that multiplayer stuff that I mentioned, was Koraidon now, instead of disappearing immediately with a pop when you talk to a trainer in the open world, instead goes into his ball. Alright, good. Then, the stakes that took 10 seconds between interacting with him and them actually starting up the text box has been fixed. Also, good. I don't know how that happened in the first place. Sandwich bread now has physics instead of just resting gently on all your toppings. And I think that's it. I'm not kidding. Those were the main issues that were fixed, at least the ones I noticed. I looked up the changes on Cerebi. The steak thing is mentioned, but none of the others, so there might be more, but it's unlikely. Nothing about the horrendous time it takes to view a Pokemon or the Pokédex spoiling new Pokemon, although I think that was fixed way, way, way later. The game is, in Game Freak's eyes at least, exactly how they want it. A pile of shit. We can talk a little bit more about the updates when we get to the DLC, if we get to the DLC, but for now, I'd like to discuss the Nuzlocke experience. Nuzlocking, if you didn't know, is a very popular challenge run for Pokemon games, if not the most popular challenge run, just in general. Essentially, the basic rules are, catch one Pokemon per route, the first one that you see. If you fail to catch it, it's dead, bye-bye. And if one of your Pokemon faint in battle, or just in general, it's also considered dead, you can't use it anymore. If you white out in a battle, that is, lose all your Pokemon, the run's over and you gotta restart. One problem with Scarlet and Violet though, there are no routes and each Pokemon has a very distinct spawning location, so if you were to do a Nuzlocke with these rules, you'd end up with a very similar team every time. So, what's the fix? Well, Game Freak's not adding in a Nuzlocke mode, and they never will, because they actually said at one point that they deem Nuzlocking as bad as hacking. I don't think they know what Nuzlocking is. But hey, maybe the Terror Raids could be a good solution. They're not, but it was a good idea. I tried this for my first Nuzlocke, but unfortunately the pool of Pokemon is not random. You're generally going to be stuck with early 1 and 2 star raids, which don't update until the date ticks over, by the way, having mostly weak bug and grass Pokemon, which will absolutely not let you get past Bombardier, so that's out. What about just rolling a random number with each number corresponding to a Pokemon that appears in that area? Also good idea that I tried, but these areas are really big with some parts you just can't get up to, meaning some Pokemon are just unobtainable. What I ended up doing was having a wheel of every Pokemon type, spinning it, and then choosing a Pokemon in the area with that type, or letting chat choose it. Mainly I just let chat choose it. If the type didn't appear in that area, spin again. Nowhere near as clunky as the random number generator, and you're free to opt out of Pokemon that you've already used. Like, if I rolled grass and I already had used dealing, there's always Sunkern. Now, this obviously gave me a small advantage over just having the Pokemon be completely random, like at least I could pick between a second typing some of the time, but I figured with a level cap in place, meaning I can't go over the gym leader or team star member's ace Pokemon's level, the no items and battle rule enforced, and me barely giving my Pokemon any EVs from battling trainers or wild Pokemon, instead opting to mainly just use the EXP candies, meaning my Pokemon just had less stats overall, it'd still be a challenge nonetheless. So, how did it go? What were the hard parts? Is Scarlet and Violet even worth nuzlocking in general? Well, I mean, once you get over the initial awkwardness of not having wild encounters and having to manually randomize your Pokemon, it works pretty well, albeit it's a very different experience. Of course, you don't have to fight any regular trainers, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. I know there's been plenty of times in Nuzlocke where regular trainers would surprise you and manage to knock out a Pokemon or two. That's gone here. You can't even die from auto-battling. That's off the table pretty much completely. No, the challenge here is simply going from main boss to main boss and leveling up along the way. Sounds kind of boring when I put it like that, but if you think about it, the gym fights were the main draw for Nuzlocking, and good news, there's now 13, 18 if you want to include the Titans. Having a level cap is pretty easy to work around, seeing as you're not actually forced into any fights other than Nimona sometimes, where I'd forget she's supposed to pop up and then end up being a little bit over-leveled for the gym, but other than that, it's pretty smooth sailing. But what about the gyms? What about the Team Star members? What about the Titans? What are they like? Well, let me tell you the tale of Mr. Guava's Pokemon Scarlet Nuzlocke. Guava, Mr. Guava. It sounds good. I think we've done Guava before, but not Mr. Guava, so that's... Mr. Guava. All right, Mr. Guava. Now, Mr. Guava was second in line after I failed the first Nuzlocke doing the whole raid den fiasco I mentioned before. It would seem that trying to beat Bombardier with a Hoppip, Wooper, Dunsparce, Floragato, and Surskit doesn't work all too well. I restarted with a new drive to get this one done properly. I wanted to do it online, letting random viewers join in, but because of the way Nintendo Online works and the way Pokemon games have only one save file, I couldn't do that, unless I wanted to cough up the cash again for a secondary account's online access, which then after I'd never use again. Am I stupid or is that ass backwards? I shouldn't have to pay again for online on another save file, right? Like, that's both a Pokemon and Nintendo issue as I see it. Why have they been so damn stingy? I let a random number generator decide Mr. Guava's looks, ending up as a lass with a terrible hairdresser and far too much eyelash dye. Mr. Guava wasn't gonna be making the same mistakes as Mr. Avocado in terms of randomized Pokemon possession. There are lots of problems with the Raid Den Nuzlocke systems that I didn't mention, such as not being able to capture any extra party members all the way up until you complete the school tutorial, which, you know, takes about half an hour on its own, even if you're rushing. And then there's the issue I mentioned before, where you'll be stuck with the one-star raids for the majority of the playthrough, unless you, of course, you know, have the day roll over and then the raids reset after you've gotten a couple of gym badges, of course, otherwise they'll still be one-star raids. So, a new system was developed. As mentioned before, we totaled up all the Pokemon available in an area and generated a corresponding number to one of those Pokemon. It didn't work well either. South Province Area 1, we got one area in before it stopped working. I had decided to swap my starter with the randomly generated Lechonk, aka Miss Piggy, in Poco Path, and I thought that'd be more interesting, and that was fine with me. Of course, because of the way the intro was structured, if I'd rolled any of the water types that call Poco Path home, I'd have been stuck immediately. I'm sure you can see where this is going. 23, 22, 21, 20. Slack off! Isn't that rare? Now, Slackoth in Area 1 is incredibly rare. It apparently has a very small chance to spawn in the trees. Usually in a Nuzlocke, catching the next Pokemon is incredibly simple. You walk into the grass, you see whatever's in there, you throw the ball. You don't have to spend 30 minutes walking back and forth to find it, or not find it in this case. So a new system was developed. A wheel featuring all the Pokemon types, plus a raid den option and a chat's choice option. Now all we had to do was spin the wheel, get our type, and choose a Pokemon matching said type. I usually let the live stream chat do that for me to keep things interesting. It also meant that if a Pokemon was unavailable at that particular point in time, we could pivot onto something else. For example, Goomy technically spawns in South Province Area 1, but you can't get to it at the start of the game because it's in an area you can't get to yet, I think up like a short cliff. Katie was the first challenge to overcome, of course, but Jeeves Stobbs the Fletchling absolutely obliterated her team with a terror-flying peck, so no issues there. Clorf was up next, and thankfully wasn't too difficult either. Dealing with Terra Grass was here to save the day. Name of US! Name thanks to it not spawning for a long time back in South Province Area 1. That's what we ended up getting there. Brassius was an absolute breeze, thanks to the Growlithe found in South Province Area 3, or Clorf's area, for those like me who don't know the area numbers by heart. One little trip to find a Firestone, and suddenly Mario had access to all of these moves, which, if you remember, I'd already talked about, so now you know why. 4 flamethrowers, would have been 3, but Suda would have had sturdy. Later, and we were on to the next Titan, Bombardier. Bombardier required a little bit more thinking. A Terra Electric Thought helped out with Pluck and got us into the second battle with Arvin, which we all know he solos, so I just sort of stuck around and supported him throughout using Fake Out and Disable. As for Giacomo, Arcanine blasted through his Pawniard no problem and then play rough through the Starmobile. Oh no, got the 10% sleep! No! I didn't know the Starmobile actually knew Snarl, and combined with Metal Sound, it knocked out Sableye. Not a big deal, its ability was Stall, but by lowering the Starmobile stats with Breaking Swipe, Tail Whip, and a variety of other moves, we took it down, although without Breaking Swipe it might have gone a different way. Those Starmobiles really are no joke. Unless you have a Fairy or a Fighting type, I suppose. I didn't have one at this point. Nemona's rival fight before Iona was simple too. Rockruff and Pawmi were not a problem, and Arcanine easily took care of Floragato. Iona herself was no problem either, really.
Did I just see a huge juicy ass on screen?
Miss Magius almost did something drastic when I, for some reason, terrestrialized Cyclizar out of having its ghost immunity. Silly me. But Miss Peggy...
Did I just see a huge juicy...
clobbered the thing with Giga Impact! Look at her go! The guide I was using got Mailer's level wrong, meaning I was 1 level under. How tragic. But thanks to Cyclizar's Breaking Swipe lowering the Starmobile's attacking stats again, along with an epic shed skin proc, we took her out without any big issues.
Do I want a Wild Charge? 65, 90... No, that won't kill. Better just to go for the Thunder Fang. I don't want to accidentally die if he gets a crit. Like, yeah, if I had used Wild Charge right there, I would be dead. I'm going to go to the...
On the way to Orthworm, I discovered for the first time the joys of glitching through walls. What a fantastic time that was. But let's not dwell on it for too long, because the Titan Orthworm is here!
Wow. That was pathetic.
As always, Kofu posed about as much of a threat as a level 2 Caterpie.
Yeah.
Probably would have been perfectly fine if I just hit it with a Wild Charge instead of paralyzing it first. What is with me in doing that? We decided in Tag Tree Thicket a Fomantis would be the best way to go after spinning the wheel onto the grass type. Little did I know I'd be stuck undertaking an hour-long hunt for the damn thing, even with sandwiches.
Surely, I got a fried fillet? That's all I got for beating the freaking... Or is it fried fillet?
Fomantis spawns in one very specific area. But hey, no problem, right? Found that out after like 5 minutes, thanks to chat. But after about 50 minutes of searching, I was sick of it.
I lived through a fucking rainstorm before this game gave me a goddamn Fomantis. That's an Applin! Fuck it, I'm grabbing the Applin. You're fucking...
I didn't even use Fomantis in the grand scheme of things, really. I don't know why I keep looking for it for so long. Sunk cost fallacy, maybe? Anyway, on to Atticus!
Anyone who's played Violet will realize that his shorts are now orange instead of purple, and it doesn't look good. I think the game might have crashed. Oh, no, there it is!
Atticus' Skuntank sucker punches my new member Scalar, getting lucky with a stench proc, meaning Scalar flinches. That's my plan down the drain. However, I wasn't done, as I still had my busted-ass Arcanine, and for some reason Atticus sent out River Vroom before Muck, meaning another easy knockout for Mario. The Starmobile was a bit of an issue, but I played around with Arcanine's Intimidate ability, and eventually the Starmobile was little more than a big wet noodle slapping around my Pokémon. I had a fighting type and a ghost type for Larry's battle, so most Pokemon weren't really a problem. I did the silly moment again and got rid of Trail Mix the Dreadnaught's normal resistance by terastallizing it into water, but everything turned out okay. Definitely a lot of room for improvement on that one, though. It should have been a lot easier than I made it. Nemona, of course, battled me right after the gym battle, and no issues whatsoever for the first 3 Pokemon, of course, nothing special there. However, Meowscarada posed a really big threat with my oh-so-favorite move, Flower Trick, but I had a seemingly perfect setup with Breloom, a bait-out slash, which is regularly effective rather than an ineffective Flower Trick, or maybe a, Night Slash? Okay, turns out she doesn't have a Dark-type move on Meowscarada at all. Alrighty then, would have been good to know. Ooh! Also, would have been good to know it was still raining after Nemona terastallized. It just went away, so I figured Flamethrower would be fine, but turned out the rain was still there, even if it wasn't there. Come on, Game Freak! On the way to Rhyme's gym, and there was another odd little occurrence.
Is that a shiny?
You sit there and tell me the shiny rate is just fine the way it is. The battle against Rhyme, as you might have expected, was pretty simple. Her Mimikyu, again, doesn't actually have any fairy moves, so there was pretty much nothing to be scared of. Like, I sent out a dragon type and a dark type into Mimikyu and faced no repercussions. How weird. Like, Houndstone does no play rough, but I beat it up before it could do anything. Same with Toxtricity. While Mimikyu was just sadly sitting there on the side watching life go by. Poor little guy. Now, at this point in the game, grinding up the specific Pokemon I wanted to use for certain fights started taking longer and longer, so I figured the best way to level would be to slap a normal encounter sandwich together and shred through a few hundred chances, and that is what I did each time I needed to level afterwards. Trying to get the EXP candies through raids takes way too long. I mean, not really because of the raids themselves, although they're definitely not quick, but more so just the act of finding a raid, heading to it, and then seeing it's only a 1 or 2 star, so, not worth it. You won't even get like half a level out of that, and then just repeating over and over again. Easier just to crack a few eggs and be done with it. I gambled on the hope that the Great Tusk Titan didn't have any rock-type moves and brought in Jeeves Stobbs. You remember him from the first gym? Which worked out fine, actually. A double battle with Arven also worked out well. It focused on his Pokemon instead of mine, meaning I could just wail away at it. Nemona's back with a barely different team utilizing Sliggoo and Pawmot. You already know the drill. This one was no issue. I actually forgot that it happens at this point, so I wasn't even prepared.
Hey, sprint over to the lobby. Hey, okay, find the computer, okay.
The battle itself wasn't too bad. Jeeves Stobbs almost went down, but hung on, and then I figured I could one-shot Florges with Throat Chop. Not a great plan, I will admit. I figured Florges' defense wasn't great due to it being a specially defensive tank, and well, yeah, it's not great, but String Bean couldn't quite dish out the damage needed, unfortunately. Now, if you thought my decision-making skills were bad before, prepare to see new lows with I just pulled an all-nighter, so let's do a 6-hour stream! Thankfully for me, it started off easy with Grusha. We already know about Grusha. We're weak to everything. Mario blasted through everybody, no surprises there. Ortega, however, I had a few issues with. Wigglytuff hit Kingdom Heart here for a crit body slam, then paralyzed him, then hit him with another crit, then hit Gassy Cleo the Lycanroc with another crit, and paralyzed her. All in a row, by the way. I tried to set up with Bulk Up, but Wigglytuff's charm lowered Gassy Cleo's attack just too much. What kind of name is Gassy Cleo? What was I doing in that stream? This fight took way too long. It was just a stall off. I mean, I could have sent in Mario the whole time, but, either way, I managed to get through Ortega with no deaths as well, so it all ended up exactly the same. The Dondozo Titan was fine. My back hurt, the Lurantis finally did something for a change, but because it was so slow, I swapped to Toedscool and Breloom for the double battle, which worked a little bit better. Also got a crit against the Tatsugiri Titan, which was nice. The wheel spin landed on Ghost for one of the areas near Eri, the Team Star fighting type boss, and my chat convinced me to get a Primeape and then just immediately evolve it into an Annihilape. Unfortunately, I didn't realize this course of action would devolve into a hunting experience even Fomantis couldn't beat. I did not find a Primeape in the area it's supposed to be in. But do you know what I did find in the hour of searching? 3 different shinies! I ain't kidding around here! In this one playthrough, I found a shiny Tadbulb, a shiny Lockix, a shiny Noibat, a shiny Howlucha, a shiny Delibird, and apparently a shiny Pawmi too! I can't even remember when that happened! I used to go through multiple Pokemon games without seeing a shiny, and now I've got 6 in 1 speedy playthrough. Not even a completed playthrough, mind you. I ended up catching a Primeape that was on Glacido Mountain instead of spending another 7 years trying to find one in the right area, and used Rage Fist on a Dealing 20 times to finally evolve it into an Annihilate. All so I could put it in the box. And then lose to Airy. A few low probability status effects and silly decisions on my part, probably due to severe lack of sleep, led to the Starmobile running over my team. Not that it wasn't close, but shift gear made it so I couldn't outspeed it, and it just did too much damage for me to take. I didn't go in with a plan, and as a result I failed the run. Mark me down as a loser. I would say this means that a Scarlet and Violet Nuzlocke run is harder than a Sword and Shield run, but I didn't do a no item level cap rule set with that game, so one day we'll go back and see how it goes with those rules in place. Maybe. Now, I did originally restart the run, this time with a Breaking Bad Mexico filter, but eventually I thought I'd just go back to Mr. Guava and finish what I started without being incredibly exhausted from no sleep. This does mean I cheated, yeah, but oh my god, playing this game over and over is taking its toll. Do you want me to suffer or die? So let's just pretend I never lost to Airy. With the exact same team, for one last chance, I entered the Team Star base, and... well, I mean, I won. I wasn't going on 0 sleep anymore. Although I did put a Lumberry on Jeeves Stobbs, whose main attacking move was Acrobatics, which, as I've already stated, does double damage if you don't have a held item. Was still recovering, I guess. But I did have a little more info on the moves that Airy's Pokemon had, mainly just the Starmobile having high horsepower. Don't think I expected that the first time. Scalar got rid of Toxicroak. Remember Mario swapped into Annihilape's Ice Punch. It did that the first time too, actually, although this time he didn't get the 10% freeze. I wanted to set up with Kingdom Heart, but Basimian for some reason knew Rock Tomb, so that couldn't happen. Lucario knocked out Scalar with a Dragon Pulse! Oh wait, look at that. And a mixture of Mario's Intimidate alongside Jeeves Stobbs doing half the damage he should have been thanks to my dumbass, the Starmobile was whittled down until it couldn't battle anymore. Not the most graceful win I've ever had, after all I did lose, but hey, it's not like anybody's gonna be unnaturally angry about it. It was just a cruddy Nuzlocke livestream after all. Now here's where the whole level cap bit about the rules got kind of fudged. At the time I had 3 separate storylines to complete, one with the Elite Four, one with Arven, one with Clavel, and then Penny. Now, Clavel's highest leveled Pokemon is 61, Arven's is 63, Penny's is also 63, and the Elite Four has a variety ranging from Rika's 58 all the way to Gita's 62. So, it would be best, seemingly, to battle Clavel, then the Elite Four and Gita, then Arven and Penny. But the guide I was looking at, or the checklist as it was touting the fact that the level of Gita's Pokemon was 66, not 62. So I could have absolutely looked it up further, and in a future playthrough, if that ever happens for some strange reason, I'll stick to what I described just before. But for this playthrough, I went with Clavel, Penny, Arven, and then the Elite Four. Gita was, at the time, the end of the run, even though now I realize it should probably be Nimona, or if you want to wander through Area Zero again, the Paradise Protection Protocol. Either way, I was planning to go as far as I could anyway, so it didn't really matter all that much. I wasn't giving myself any more second chances like I did with Airy, so if it ended after Gita at some point, you know, that was it. Anyway, Clavel. I love this man, so what I did to him should be classified as a crime of passion. A spore from Flip Flop allowed my Indian food to come in and set up with Dragon Dance, shredding each and every Pokemon he sent out. I said during the battle if Clavel was smart, he'd have sent out Gyarados because, you know, of the Intimidate proc, but because I'd picked Fuecoco at the start of the game, he didn't have one, instead slotting in Houndoom instead. What a downgrade, man. Game Freak did you dirty. Just like I did. Did the exact same thing to Penny, but not before teaching Indian food Poison Jab to deal with the Sylveon at the back. See, I was ready this time. One after another, Penny's evolutions fell until Sylveon was the only one left. Thankfully, as I said, I had a Dragon Danced Poison Jab up my sleeve, so Sylveon didn't stand a chance. What? My Vivifar will crush you to Stardust? That should have killed! What the fuck? What is Sylveon? Oh, fuck me! You know what killed me here? Not random RNG or Sylveon's outstanding 65 defense stat. That's nothing! It was this. Rivalry. My male Haxorus was doing 25% less damage to female Pokemon. And what gender is Penny's Sylveon? You already know the answer. I was so mad. I love Indian food. Either way, with my Dragon Dancer in the dirt, I had to find a new Pokemon to sweep with, and thankfully, one particular shiny Pokemon had just what I needed in order to succeed. Sorry, buddy, not you. Howlucha! Not only does it know Swords Dance, but just look at Arven's team! Greedent, weak to fighting. Garganacl, weak to fighting. Scovillain, weak to flying. Toadscruel, weak to flying. Cloyster, weak to fighting. Mabosstiff, weak to fighting. They did Arven so dirty, man! Hard counted by Flamigo! The first Elite Four member, Rika, did not have a good time. Dugtrio was, weirdly enough, the most annoying one on her team, mainly because I was trying to shut up, but I really didn't have to. I mean, there was nothing all that threatening here. I thought Poppy might prove a bigger challenge, but as it turns out, even in a Nuzlocke, she's a bit of a pushover. I had Suction Cup the Electros with Flamethrower, Pig Bench the Annihilate, and of course, Mario to easily take down all of her Pokemon. Her Tinkaton, for some reason, never used Play Rough, even when Garchomp was out. It does have it, it just never used it, opting instead to go with the Gigaton Hammer. It's maybe another Liquidation Flamigo situation. Larry, well, I'll just show you what Larry decided to do. Oh shit, I shouldn't have set up the sun! Everything after that went swimmingly, except for when I made the worst play in the world and sent out Annihilate thinking Flamigo was gonna go for a close combat just because it did on my first playthrough. What an idiot! I wouldn't have even changed anything. Flamigo has Scrappy. Anyway, so Pig Bench didn't quite make it. So much for all that agony searching for it. And we're on to the final Elite Four member, Mr. Hassel. Now Hassel was a bigger threat. Thankfully, I got the perfect first turn with Noivern missing its move so Yooka-Laylee could Ice Beam the bastard for a one-shot. Dragalge didn't seem like much of a threat, so I kept Yooka-Laylee in to scout for a move or two. Thunderbolt! It did nothing. I was a little worried about a grass move from Flapple and him outspeeding, so I sent in Mario instead. Probably a bad decision. Flapple used Leech Seed anyway, and then Arcanine got crit right after. Suction Cup got a crit right back on Haxorus though, knocking it out, and only Baxcalibur was left. I couldn't keep in Suction Cup because he was too low. A Flip-Flop would immediately die to an Ice-type move, plus didn't really have any offensive options. Mario could be sent in for an Intimidate, but then he'd die immediately afterwards. Yooka-Laylee doesn't outspeed Baxcalibur for some reason, so he'd go down in one hit or two hits probably, and Scalar, well, he's Dragon type, he'd definitely die as soon as he's sent out. But I gave him a Focus Sash.
This is my big brain time. This is my big brain moment.
The perfect use of a Focus Sash allowed Garchomp to come in without dying and retaliate with a Terra Dragon Dragon Claw, plus the double damage from the Glaive Rush's special effect, plus the Dragon on Dragon weakness. Baxcalibur was no more and the Elite Four was conquered! I know what I did seems very simple and I could have done effectively the same thing by letting Suction Cup die, but I'm glad I managed to get through deathless, except for Pig Bench, and end up being prepared for that moment, if not a little bit unintentionally. Oh, right, Gita. Vaporeon did something, I think? Either way, that's the Nuzlocke complete, technically. I suppose the real champion is Nemona, but I didn't take that super seriously. Should have, but I brought in Miss Piggy from Poco Path instead of somebody worthwhile here. Lost me the match, if I'm gonna be honest. Also, for some reason, I had it in my head that Nemona had Quaquaval instead of Meowscarada.
Oh, not the duck! I wasn't prepared for Meowscarada.
I was so used to her having this stupid-ass duck, I didn't even think twice. It's what happens when you come back to a Nuzlocke weeks after stopping, I guess. I was a bit burnt out after finishing the Psychic Gym. I didn't come back to the game for a long while. But how was the experience? Is Scarlet and Violet a fun Pokemon game to Nuzlocke? Well, you know, I'm gonna say, if you're gonna go into these games without any rare candies to level up your Pokemon to the level cap, Scarlet and Violet might just be the best games to Nuzlocke. How easy it is to level up your alternative Pokemon means you aren't just stuck with a single team anymore, unless you're crazy enough to grind for hours in the wild grass in the previous games to level up a single Pokemon. My first ever Platinum run was a nightmare for that. You also don't have to battle any random trainers, meaning there is less room for error. The only battles you'll really be doing is against big bosses, auto-battling, and against Chanseys, so I mean, there's no real adventure to it, I want to say, which is something the other games did have, as sometimes there were certain trainers that'd catch you off guard and knock out a team member or two. But Scarlet and Violet has more bosses overall, so it's not that bad. It's just different. The random encounters having to be strung up on a computer monitor with randomly generated numbers or on a wheel with a list of all available Pokemon next to it, however, is a big downside to the nuzlocking experience. You can't really get that same feeling of mystery as to what you're gonna get stepping into a bush, but overall there's a ton more Pokemon available in each area, and I suppose you don't have to have the list next to you when you roll the type, unless you're trying to get a Pokemon way out in like the East Sea or something, and it's like, fire! Okay. So either way, you're gonna get more varied runs overall, which honestly makes up for it quite a bit. There's only so many times you can start a Fire Red run with Rattata and Pidgey. Of course, that's where like mods and randomizers come in, although you know how Nintendo feels about that. I'm talking about this strictly just in terms of, vanilla Pokemon games. If you've got access to, literally anything else to make the games better, those win by a large margin. Also, Rad from the future here, I guess I thought it went without saying, but I thought I'd remind you again that there is not a set switch mode option in Scarlet and Violet, meaning that if you want to use what the majority of people see as a bread and butter rule for Nuzlocke, that being set mode, you'll spend minutes upon minutes of your life backing out of the "do you want to switch Pokemon" text box. The battles already take long enough, and I don't want to get into it again. You already know about the long waiting times between pressing a button and it actually going off. It's just quite frustrating is all I'm saying. Now the challenge, I don't think it's all that hard for the most part. I know, I lost against Eri and a few Pokemon were killed here and there, but that's mainly because of stupid choices I made, including bringing Miss Piggy in to battle Nemona. I think Eri and Nemona, alongside the final battle against RoboSada, are the standout spikes in difficulty here, but might be the only real challenges you have to prepare for. But that does make it, comparatively to any other Pokemon game, quite easy to get into Nuzlocking. It's basically a straight shot from one big battle to the next, even if you need to research what order that is ahead of time. You don't need rare candies to not waste your time here, or at least for the most part. You can swap your Pokemon in and out pretty easily. Because of that, there's a wide variety of Pokemon to find, and most evolutionary methods like the stones or something like Sinisty's Teapot, for example, can be found out in the open world. Not to mention, apparently single-use battle items are no longer single use? Garchomp's Focus Sash respawned after the fight against Mr. Hassel, so that's cool. So yeah, not too bad. Definitely not super challenging for the most part. Again, I feel Eri is a bit of an outlier, but definitely worth a shot if you enjoyed your time with the game, which I know there are a lot of people out there who genuinely did. So, I've played the game normally, I've nuzlocked it, I've done randomized soul links with my friend Neil.
I'm not going to think about it too much.
Flash cannon.
It is full.
Man, that flash cannon must have hit Rob really hard.
My power shut off. I've played online, raids and not, and I've fully completed the Pokédex. So what do I think of the base game of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Well, if you don't know already, you haven't really been paying attention, have you? This game's a huge pile of ass. A fun pile of ass, one that actually got me completing the Pokédex of all things, but the technical issues I just can't look past. 10 seconds do not go by in this game without seeing some sort of glitch, some sort of bug. The landscape will jitter, the walls will melt, the building will turn into paper mache, the mountains will disappear, you'll get stuck on a flat surface. I'm stuck. I can't even move. NPCs will pop in and out of existence. Pokemon will headbang in the distance or pop in 2 meters in front of you. The game chugs more and more the longer you play it due to the memory leak. There's too many problems. There's too many to count. A company with this much money should not be producing anything of subpar quality. And despite the game itself having neat ideas, music, and characters, the quality is less than subpar. It's subtraction. And I hate math. Fuck you, Miss Time. Yes, indeed, the quality is worse than Sword and Shield. That game is still much worse overall, but at least I couldn't peek through the ground every battle. Since writing this script, it's been so long that the game's actually received an update for the Switch 2, and many are touting the improvements the game has. It fixes the issues. RadicalSoda's review is null and void. Okay, first of all, even if it friggin' fixed everything wrong in the game, there's still a $500 patch. And secondly, it doesn't like at all. The two major issues the Switch 2 patch fixes are the frame rate and the resolution. Everything else Still on the table, baby. NPCs popping in and out of existence, that's still there. Same for trees, objects, and the land itself. Battles, still slow as shit, taking seconds to start a move once selected. World still looks like ass, textures still look like shit, cutscenes still broken as hell. Sure, more Pokemon can spawn now, but that also exacerbates the issue of getting stuck in a wild battle loop. It's still the same game, guys. Even if the frame rate was like this from the beginning, the quality here would still be unacceptable. But let's say they fixed all the bugs and all the graphical issues, all the performance issues, which is funny that it took buying a totally new console to iron that out specifically. The game still wouldn't be good. It'd just be okay-ish? Mediocre? Like, even on the Switch 2, it still looks like crap and the world is still lacking anything exciting to do. There's no point making an open world game without filling that world with stuff to see and do. This game and its company respects you about as much as a possum respects a delicious native bird egg. At this point, it's clear that Game Freak sees us as money bags ready to be squeezed out of every hard-earned dollar we have and nothing much else. According to them, there is no big bad over at Nintendo, no big Pokemon Company CEO behind the scenes pulling the strings, forcing them to push out slop. In fact, we can, with pretty good confidence, assume that the director of Game Freak or the president, whatever, the one in charge, is the main reason why we get games like this. And I think that's really sad, because I've always loved Pokemon games as far back as I can remember. I've always loved Pokemon. Why else would I get this mad? It had always stayed strong as one of my favorite franchises growing up. And I can't tell you how excited I was for Pokemon like Emerald, Pearl and Diamond, Black and White. And to see Game Freak go down this route and just releasing this? Man, after the anger fades away, and it takes a while, I'm just left sad. But I bet the DLC will fix all that. Take my money! I'm not doing the DLC. What?